Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. Today, I'm back working on our Craigslist 350. I haven't done anything to this in almost 6 months. And one of the reasons is, in case you guys out there in YouTube land can help me, the bearings, the rod bearings are not marked. So I don't know what size to get or order. So that's part of the problem. I thought, well, if I pull the crank, maybe the crank bearings are marked, but I don't really know. So anyway, that got me a little discouraged. But the reason I'm doing this video series is because I'm not an engine builder. In fact, almost all of what I've learned practically has come from YouTube. I've, read some books on it or whatever, but like seeing someone do it is kind of the thing. But there are a few people out there just like me that don't understand how to assess the judgment calls. So we're gonna build this thing on this channel and I'm gonna try to put it in my truck and I'm gonna try to run it. I don't know what we're gonna get out of it, but I will tell you at least every judgment call I made and every information piece that I used to make the judgment call. So quick recap: 4-bolt main block, bought it off Craigslist. Guy said it ran, he was wrong. Tested the heads, they were junk. Pulled the pistons out, did all of the measuring on all of the cylinders. I have a bit of a cylinder taper. I don't know where my cardboard is. That, no one knows where that goes. I wrote down everything for every cylinder in a different video to show the taper that I had for each cylinder. Asked Uncle Tony, got a wishy-washy answer, totally fair. It's all a judgment call. So at this point, I decided to get back into it because I hadn't touched it in a while. It's just been taking up space, and I decided, it's one thing to get defeated, but it's another thing to abandon a project. So I pulled the timing cover off, and I pulled the timing chain off, which is stuff I've never done before. It did require the use of this Harbor Freight impact, which is much more powerful than my Milwaukee impact, and because I already had the pistons out, getting the crank pulley off, getting the bolt out of the center of it, getting the harmonic balancer off and all of that stuff took an impact because the rotating assembly had no resistance. So just keep that in mind. You're either gonna need something butch and cheap, or you're gonna need to do some of this before you pull the pistons. Then, in trying to get the timing gear off, I kind of pulled it and the cam started to decide to come out just like that. Well, then I couldn't get it back in because the fuel pump push rod was keeping the cam from going back in. So now I'm gonna pull the cam and I'm gonna pull the crankshaft. I'm hoping that we are gonna get two things. One, an understanding of what this cam is, because given all of the cam videos recently, I'm gonna rerun this if it doesn't show obvious signs of disaster, because I don't wanna put in a bad cam, because that's what the whole YouTube is exploding with, is poorly ground cams. And I'm hoping to pull the crank out and hopefully the bearings are marked so that we have some guidance. I genuinely do not think this thing has ever been apart, but I don't know. I don't know how to know. Like forensically, I'm seeing nothing, but I don't know. So I've already screwed this up. I guess I cleaned something out with brake clean. That took the surface right off of that, which stinks. It's not terrible. I'm gonna see, obviously we're gonna try to polish that out and oil it up ASAP, but rookie mistake, I guess. Dang it. So I'm gonna pull the main caps and then we'll see what we got. Never done this before. Here goes nothing. Oh, here goes. Fellas are on there. I should clear a spot because I need to keep these things in order. God, I just opened that up and it smells like burned suddenly. Interesting. This one smells like burning. This one smells like gas, which I guess is on the fuel pump side. Just gonna try to pull this bearing out because I want to see. This one's marked. Anybody know what that means? Is that standard? Does anybody know? I don't know. Well, we'll dig into all that later. I'm gonna put that back. Just gonna keep going down the line. We'll investigate in a moment. All right, gang, you may have seen a hammer in there. I used a really lightweight body hammer just to tap it. Hopefully that's not anything wrong. I don't know if that's normal. And on the last one, I was able to get the screwdriver in just barely into the corner, and it did pop out immediately. Otherwise, it was kind of stuck on there. So, what do we got? I mean, I don't see any major scoring on the crank itself. Any wear marks or anything like that, because the bearings all went with the caps. Well, there's a little bit there. I guess we can spin it and take a look. I think that's what got me into trouble when I cleaned these. So we'll have to, do the Vice Grip Garage sort of at-home crank polishing and see if we can get that stuff out. That one's got some scoring in it for sure right there. So, yep, that's exactly what I did. I cleaned the surfaces to look for scoring, and then I did not oil them again. So keep that in mind, fellers. Yeah, so that one seems to be the worst so far. Yeah, we got a little bit. I guess this engine was really just super tired. What are you gonna do? It's a 4-bolt main. It's got the heavy duty gears, at least that's what the part number says. I don't really know, but I think this engine was put through the paces and not really well cared for. The heads are toast. I know nothing. I'm going off the Vice Grip Garage budget rebuild type thing. He had a method for polishing these crankshafts. I'm gonna try it, I think. So let's take a look at the bearings. Honestly, I don't even know how they're properly numbered, but from front to back, need a better way. All right, let's go through front to back. Just gonna wipe them clean, I guess, so you can see them. All right, there's that guy. I mean, he's got some discoloration. I don't know if that's normal. That guy is scored to death. Like, bad. We're down to whatever the next layer is. That's all kinds of boogered up. So I can't catch my thumb on it on the crankshaft, which is great, but I can sure catch a fingernail in this thing. That just looks all worn to hell. Evenly though. That looks pretty worn to me too. I mean, I'm basing that based on the color, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it is evenly worn again. And then finally, this little feller. Got a bit of a center groove, but I'd have to go back and look. I'm not seeing anything that says a lot of heat, but I'm definitely seeing bad friction juju. I need to check all of those bearings and get a part number, I guess, and see if I can assess what's in there. And I guess if they're standard, an at-home polishing job shouldn't change anything, but that's purely an assumption. So if you know better, holler at a dude, Oh no. I think it's a matter of just lifting this thing out. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I don't know where I'm gonna put it, but probably just right on the ground. Which ones do you guys grab onto? Again, I've never done this before, so hey, look at that. All right, we're gonna pull this camshaft out. First glance, it doesn't look so bad, but I guess we'll pull it out and see what we got going on here. I mean, I know better than to try to drag it over the cam bearings, but outside of that, I don't know much else. Fuel pump, push rod is going to be my enemy here. So I've got an all thread 3/8 bolt. I'll show you where this goes in a second. I don't know if it goes all the way through, but on the old engines, you could thread a long bolt in this hole and it would hit the push rod for the fuel pump to hold it up when you installed the fuel pump. I guess possibly when you're installing a camshaft as well. I thought they stopped this before the 70s, and this is a 70s block, but I guess we're about to find out. All right, because we're doing this for real amateurs like myself, the fuel pump push rod rides on the front of the cam and goes in through here. You can see it just laying on the cam right here for now, right? Just so everybody's, following along, the fuel pump just has this lever and it bolts onto that plate. So every time that front lobe comes around, it gives that thing a little pump-a-ma-doo. So right now, what I'm doing is trying to tighten this bolt, because I can clearly see that this one goes nowhere. That this bolt, I believe, but I'm not certain, might thread it in enough to hold this push rod up. I even think the Model A 4-bangers had something like this. This is also, note to you, at least on the early engines, and possibly this one if it proves true, that oil will leak out of this hole if you don't have a bolt in it. Actually, I could feel that hit the push rod. Like, it's barely on there, but that's holding it up. So, contrary to my previous belief, this hole on the fuel pump side, the top one, does go all the way through. So if you don't have an accessory bracket, plug that up with a 3/8 bolt and some Teflon tape, I would guess. Otherwise, you'll have an oil leak that you're gonna think is your timing chain cover, and it's not. Hey look, I actually knew something. Again, I don't really know what I'm doing here. Just gotta keep turning, I guess. I know people replace camshafts in running motors. I just don't know how you do it, but a lot of things I don't know, gang. A lot of things. Huh. First time I've ever done that. Let's take a look. Let me get a rag. I mean, we've got wear for sure. No big grooves in the bearing surfaces. Like wear by I can see the, a little bit of a mark on the top of the lobes, but it all looks like they're in the right spot. I wouldn't even begin to know how to check this to see if it's still good. But I guess right now, unless I see something terrible, I'm gonna call it good. I'm gonna go put this down in a safe place. We're gonna check the numbers on this. We're gonna check the numbers on the bearings and come up with a plan, right team? Aiming for the easy ones here. That also has a number on it. So, I guess that surface is okay. I'm just gonna leave that sitting right there, because that's where he goes. These are kind of stuck, so just barely tapping the edge. It's spinning them enough for me to get my hands on them. I don't know if that's right. That's why I'm doing it though. So I'm spinning it away. There is a little tab on there. I think it's pretty clear if you're in the room, but if you're at home, that's why I'm not knocking them this way, but rather knocking them this way, like lifting the tab up, because clearly the tab keeps them from spinning. Looks like 9-2-N4, but what do I know? Anybody know what that is? These are both 66571, so that's good that they're the same. same. It's a different number, but I don't know what that means. Let me do a little Google. All right, gang, the night has passed. We're back out here again. I got a review and maybe actually ask for some help from those of you out there. Most of the comments on this channel have been extremely positive and helpful, hopefully not only to me, but anybody else watching the videos and reading the comments. So I do read them all. So here we are. We've got a pile of parts everywhere. This is the most interesting. I don't think you're gonna be able to see it, but I'll show you anyway, and then I'll slap a picture up here. There are some markings on here that were extremely hard to read, but what I was able to cipher in, least important to most important order, a 0, a Z, a 0, 3, and an 8. I scoured the internet last night, nothing. Then it says comp cams. Then, in an impossible to read number stamped over comp cams, I got 12246-3. 122-246-3. And it's the 1800 to 6000 RPM extreme energy cam range. What we got to figure out is that what we want to do, because the plan for the engine, the plan for the build, is to put it into my 1965 C10 daily driver. I mean, daily, stop and go traffic and highway. So like the power band on this thing, on the one hand, sounds great for dragging that thing up hills on the highway, right? That's mid-range torque, that's awesome. But I don't really care for like a lopey cam idle. It doesn't do anything for me. And I need the vacuum to run the power brakes. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. The specs are available. I kind of know what they mean. I'm kind of learning. What I don't know is what they are relative to anything else I could get. So let's move on for a moment. The next thing we've got to deal with is this crank. So this one journal has some scratches in it. The bearings seem to take it the worst, but maybe we can, a la Vice Grip Garage, polish that out with the 400 grit sandpaper and then polishing compound and all that stuff. I'm assuming that these are standard because I still have some GM markings on the bearings. I'll slap them up here, but I need to do some research. Do I need to try to measure the journals and then figure out what bearings to buy? Like how does a guy know what bearings to buy? Because pretty sure these are standard. And if I did the Vice Grip Garage, polish with 400, then polish with metal polish, what do you need, and how do you know? So got some research to do there. Please put it down in the comments if you have a suggestion. But let's recap. That means I also thought this timing chain was in pretty darn good shape because, well, it just didn't have a lot of play in it at all. It looks, pretty decent. And what we can determine is at some point, I don't think the crank has ever been out of here because of the condition of the bearings, especially the one with the big score in it. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. And then on top of that, it was clear that the timing cover gasket had been replaced, and clearly somebody put a cam in this motor at some point, so they probably did the timing chain. I guess they put the crappy harmonic balancer back on. I don't know. There's a lot of different things going on in this motor, and we know the heads were junk, like leaking like crazy. There's videos in this series that'll show all of that. I'm rambling out of confusion. So real deal operating range for me is idle, stop and go traffic idle to 3,500 RPM, because if we're doing 80, we're pushing 2,800 RPM on the highway. I'll do that for sustained periods of time if necessary, so it's something to think about. What I have here are some performance parts, but I'm really not looking for a performance-y engine. I'm looking for something that'll drive like a stocker with a slightly improved performance, and this may be the wrong combination. So I'm gonna do a ton of research, ask a ton of questions, read a ton of articles based on what I have, and see if we can figure out if this is a winning combination for the type of driving I want to do, because that's the most critical thing. The one thing I do know is that any engine build should match what you plan to do with it, because building a drag motor for a daily commuter is a nightmare waiting to happen. Put what you know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. You know, like if this is a good combination for the type of driving I want, great. If it's not, you got a suggestion for something a little better? That would also be great. I'd love to run this cam because it's broken in and I've got the lifters that go with it and all of that stuff. But if it's not the right cam, if it's too much cam for the type of driving I want to do, I don't want no vacuum at idle. I don't want this lopey thing sitting at traffic lights to sound cool. I want this to run like a sewing machine. I want it to be awesome. So thanks for watching Between the Sharks. Let's keep this a community. I'd love to hear your input. I know there are a couple people following this build trying to, you know, resolve the same sort of problems that I am, which is like, I don't know, it's a lot of judgment calls built on years of experience that I simply don't have. So anyway, good luck on your projects out there. I'm gonna clean all this up, keep it all organized. I'll do some research. Love to hear what you got to say, and we'll see you next time on Between the Sharks. Comp cams. Who would have thought they would have done that?